Norwich see themselves right back up in the Premier League after getting relegated. They win the championship, come back up after, and has been now a very busy summer. A fairly quiet summer when they came up a couple of years ago, but they have definitely not been quiet this time around. Before I give it off to Lane here to give his thoughts on the summer for Norwich and how they could do it this upcoming season, let me just give you a bit of a summary of what they have done this summer. And summary, unfortunately, is not short this time around. They have brought in Rashika, Zolas, Josh Sargent, Ben Gibson, Giannulis, who was on loan there last year, Lees Malou, Angus Gunn, and then they have brought in Billy Gilmore and Brandon Williams on loan. Now, I'm not going to list all of the departures, but I will list the notable ones. Buendia, of course, going to Aston Villa. Players that have left on freeze go from Vranich, Steeperman, Leitner. Nyland has gone to Bournemouth, Tribal, along with a few others. And then they have let a lot of players go on loan as well, from the likes of Hugo, the likes of Daniel Barden, Josh Martin, amongst several others. In total, there are 16 players who have either been sold, left on freeze, or have been loaned out from Norwich this year. So there is a lot of changes in Norwich. They have brought in about 8. They have lost about 16. There are a lot of changes. It's a very new side. There's a lot to integrate, but there's also a lot of reasons to be hopeful about this Norwich side moving into this year, despite their poor start to the season. And so we're going to give our thoughts about Norwich, their summer, and how they could fare back in the Premier League this season.
Well, I'm going to be like some others and come out with a bold statement. I don't think Norwich are going down. I know a lot of people straight away are going to criticize that because everyone has Norwich going down, no matter who you are, really, besides some optimists and Norwich fans. But I think Norwich have had one of the best transfer windows out of everyone in the Premier League. Yes, that is a big statement. I know a lot of people think that Norwich haven't had a good transfer window, but if you look at the likes of talent they've brought in, they've invested really heavily in youth. They've brought in a lot of like key bargain signings, some real steals and deals, like Piers Lees and Malou, even Josh Sargent and Christos Zolis. Those were extremely cheap deals, anywhere from around 10 to 15 million. Those guys were. Rashika came in for 8 million. Some top quality players at top of their game coming in for bargain deals, very cheap deals, picking them off from teams that needed money, and they've stolen some of the best players out there for extremely cheap deals. You're bringing in Sizolis, one of the best world-class talents out there for teenagers, who's going to play on that left-hand side with his Greek teammate Giannoulis from PAOK on left back. So you're going to have a great connection between those two. You're going to have an unbelievable midfield like Billy Gilmore, Lees Malou, so many great players there. Still rumors like Phil Billing to come in, bringing in Gibson now and are confirmed after the loan. They've just done an unbelievable job, and after beating Bournemouth 6-0 in the cup, this Norwich side can look up, even though they've had a terrible start to the season. That was expected with the schedule. I know people are already criticizing Norwich, but I don't think you can criticize Norwich too much when you have this poor of a schedule given to you. It's just not fair, because when you have to play the likes of Man City and Liverpool, and it's just a joke. Crystal Palace have the same thing. Their season will really pick up and start when they have to play the likes of Arsenal and Watford and teams like that. That's when we'll see what Norwich are really made of, because then they can implement their style of play and how Daniel Falker really wants to play. They played very well against Bournemouth in the cup. You saw a true Norwich. You saw them pressing on the front foot, playing fast, attacking football. They did extremely well. The likes of Josh Sargent playing his great pressing football. Christos Zolis playing extremely well with Josh Sargent. This team looks on the up, and if they do get relegated, they're set for the future, unlike they were last time. They have some great youth talent, and they'll be extremely good in the future to come.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's the best thing for Norwich now is the signings they have made aren't necessarily just for this season, as long as they can retain players and get back up in the Premier League right away, which I wouldn't doubt if this team went back down. They could probably do well in the championship. They have really built here for the future. And as you mentioned, it's a tough schedule to start the year. It's also worth noting that they brought in a lot of players and a lot of young players, and that's going to take some time to integrate for everyone to get comfortable, to find their roles, to find the lineup they even want to use. And that might ultimately be part of the downfall for Norwich this year, is just the fact that they have a lot of players to integrate, a lot of players that are new to the country, a lot of players that are new to the team that they're going to have to try and figure out a role for. It's a transition. As I mentioned, they've lost a lot of players. There might be some players that start to transition out of the team. Of course, Pookie's been a mainstay, but maybe you see Josh Sargent becoming a bit more prominent. Of course, you have Zolas and Rashika who can both play in there. How they fit into the team is going to be remains to be seen. There's a lot of pieces that are still shaping, that are still forming, and might not really figure it out for a few months into the season. But it's all about the future right now for Norwich, and I think the way they're going, that if they can retain onto them some players, whether they stay in the Premier League or not this upcoming season, they're going to be set for the long term if they can get themselves back into the Premier League or stay into the Premier League. They've brought in good youth. That's just the fact. Between Sargent, Sozoles, those are absolutely brilliant young pieces. And no one else they've brought in has been super old. Angus Gunn at 25 is a solid goalkeeper for the future because, of course, Tim Krul isn't going to be able to continue forever. Lise Malou is only 28. He still has a lot of good years ahead of him. Gianluca is only 25. This is a team that's in a good spot. Now, of course, it's been a rough start. They had a tough schedule. They still have Leicester coming up. But after that, we'll get to see a little bit more how they fare. How do they do against Arsenal, Watford, Everton, Burnley, Brighton? That stretch is going to be a little bit more telling. Then you get later into the year when they're a little bit more integrated. Then they have a stretch of Brentford, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle. Teams they should actually get results against. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether they lose 1-0 or 5-0 against City. Sure, it's encouraging if they look better. But ultimately, Norwich don't need to have a play style or a game plan or any type of plan really to beat City, to beat Liverpool, to beat Chelsea. If they can get points against them, great, but that's not what's going to keep them up. If they can get results against Brentford, if they can get results against Southampton or Newcastle, that's ultimately what's going to keep them up. So how they perform over the next couple of months is going to be a lot more telling than what we have seen over the first couple of weeks, and even more so the couple of months after that as this team gets a little bit more integrated, everybody looks a little bit more comfortable and get settled into their roles on this team, because there's just a lot unknown and in the air as far as the roles and the players and where they're going to fit into this team. As far as where I'm concerned, I also do not have them getting relegated. I have them sitting in 16th as of the time of when we made these Premier League previews. It could go either way. I don't think Norwich are any bit safe from relegation. I think the start of the season has shown that. They're obviously not comfortably staying up. They're not competing with the big dogs. No one would expect them to do so. And it's just, I think they have talent on this team. It's just going to be how quick can they integrate everyone and they get comfortable, and can they find their style of play, their right roles, their right lineups to have success in the Premier League. There's a lot of potential here in Norwich. There's a bright future. I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're a Norwich fan, a lot more than when they came up a couple of years ago. I think there's a lot more to look forward to on the current roster who they've brought in. But I think it's definitely a season that's up in the air for Norwich, but there's definitely a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to look forward to here with this Norwich side. If you look at the players they brought in and the talent they have, that front three, they could definitely go with a Sargent down the middle, Zolis at left side, Rashika right side, and your wingbacks being Giannoulis, who has a great connection with Christos Zolis from PAOK, and then you have Max Aarons on the right playing behind Rashika. That just oozes class, and it has a great future ahead of it if they can keep this core of the team together. And you even have the midfield of Pierre Lise Malou and Billy Gilmore. Daniel Falker is an amazing coach, and once he gets this pressing style and he gets a chance to play some teams that are more his level, I think you'll see a great Norwich side. It'll be very interesting to see how they start to fare against some lower down teams and some teams that are more of their class and some teams that can really take their style against. Once they start pressing teams and pressing back lines with the likes of Sargent, Zolis, Rashika, even Pookie, I think this team will really show you what they've got. Everyone's predicting to get relegated and go down, and I just don't understand why. I do see it in a sense because of their history in the competition, but I feel like this is a year that Norwich are going to cement themselves in the Premier League and not be a ping-pong table with the Championship. I do feel like Norwich will shock people and come 15th or 14th and surprise people and not get relegated this year.
Definitely a brighter future for Norwich, the more hope, and a season where they will try to prove the doubters wrong, stay in the Premier League, and cement themselves as a bit more of a regular in the Prem. Highlight their game on September 18th against Watford. Of course, it's only one game. Of course, it's still early in the year, but I think that'll be a much better sign as to how Norwich could fare in the Premier League this season. So let us know down in the comment section what you guys think about Norwich this summer, what has been one of the busiest summers in world football, and how you think they could fare in this 2021-22 Premier League campaign. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And if you want to see our other Premier League season previews, make sure to click the box on the right-hand side of the screen. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys in the next one.